Okay.
Not going anywhere till tomorrow at like 4 o'clock. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is motion to approve the final change of the alternate energy overlay district ordinance. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we review final changes to the alternative energy ordinance.
Is there a second? A second. So first thing on discussion, is this our first or fourth review?
We'll call it first.
We'll call it first then.
Yes,
Okay, I
we're
had it
starting
written-
over.
Starting over, okay. I had it written down, we got four, so, all right.
We talked about doing it that way. That's-
You wanna change it to the first?
Yes, well-
Okay, all right. The copies have been made, to those who want, we still think there are still a few more copies, if anybody wants to see it. With that, we have discussion for you to
Okay.
go forward.
All right, so there were a few little changes that Joe made, and I think there are a couple of little minor things that we kind of need to touch on from a grammatical, just a formatting situation. And we can go through that, I think, fairly quickly. Had a question, Joe, on page 5 under review and application. On A, section A. Does this tie back into the application for what could be page 5 mark under 5A? About halfway down. Does this tie back into the application itself? So I looked online again, and that darn online version that you have was not posted. Probably a solutions thing again, it came off. I couldn't find the application.
We're working on stuff right now, so it may be down because they're in the process of changing some things, so when you were on there, it may have been down.
Okay, so I looked where you showed me under Beacon GIS.
Yeah, we've made a change, they're working on it on their end, so they might have it down while they're making other changes on their end.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what they're working on it, but that's probably what's going on.
Because that's kind of important back to the application process. I think there was just one little thing on page 6 at the very top. I think you had mentioned this to me. It's about halfway down. About the 6th line, where it talks about providing 24 by 24 inch signs provided by the administrator. And I don't see, we talked about this last time. We talked about that being the applicant instead of the administrator. Shouldn't be at our cost.
Right.
Be the,
We did say that.
you remember what we talked about there, Joe?
Well, my suggestion was to move this to the, I don't have the email in front of me, but, I mean, if we're gonna require signing for rezoning, we probably should require signing for all rezoning, not just one particular rezoning.
Nah, this is a commercial situation, so.
Well, you're gonna have lots of commercial
Well, I hope so, yeah.
rezoning, commercial, so I would move that language to whatever section I stated in the email.
I don't know what that was, but at any point,
And make it, and make it a requirement.
I think-
I sent you some language.
You did,
that
I think-
thought would work.
but I think in the short term for what we're doing today, we don't wanna make significant changes. We don't need to move it, we're just gonna change one word, administrator to applicant. Steve, you're looking over there, it's under, on page, what, not on that.
Page 6. 6th
Actually
line.
looking at something different.
Yeah, you've got a shorter version.
Right there.
This one?
Yeah.
So that would be my only suggestion on that one, Mark and Chad, is we're not tied to that. I think, yeah.
Page 6.
And again, in the short term, I would just suggest we change that word from administrator to applicant, so that we can continue forward, that's not really significant.
I would take out by the administrator and put in provided at the applicant's expense.
That's fine too,
Make that clear.
applicant's expense. guys okay with that? Yeah. Okay. And then down, I see you made that one change under F, one or more public hearings, so that was good. I think everybody was in agreement on that when it was pulled last time.
I don't know if the change we did before. But
On page 8 on the large version, for whoever has that, all the way down to M, nothing major there, Joe, just the implementation, just consistency for that.
Bring it out, spaceship too.
Yeah, that'd really be easy administration. And the next one I have is on page 11, under 9, decommissioning. When you go down to C, decommissioning standards, it would be sub-bullet number 4. I think, Mark, you had a suggestion here where we're talking about disposed in a landfill within the, you said something like the planning area of Henry County?
correct. I do have a note here. Don't think that changed.
Yeah, it did not. So I think we were all in agreement that that was, yeah, because that was a good change, so we don't have to deal with that.
Steve, just for clarification, it was brought up this morning that there was some concern about page 8.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Don't let me go
setback,
too far away.
number 2, bottom of the page where it talks about the Board of Adjustment upon recommendation of the commission. Wasn't that determined to be a due process, that there has to be some type of process for them to look
Yeah.
at it?
Yeah, I think we had that long discussion that does go to the Board of Adjustment, however, it comes back, and if we disagree with it, we can still appeal that back to the district court.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we talked about, Joe?
Right.
There is always an appeal process.
Right.
Did that answer the question?
I know a lot of people had that question as we went through this some time ago, but again, it goes back to Iowa code and where we're at with the Board of Adjustment, so we'll follow the code, but then we want the opportunity to at least make an appeal and understand what our rights are as a board of supervisors. Okay, did you have something in between that?
No.
Because we're on page 11, so don't, just jump right in. Get ahead of myself. On page 12, under cost estimate, item E, bullet number 3, little 3 eyes there. I was a little confused when I looked at that. We took everything back. We said we were gonna take fines and everything back to Article 7. However, this is really more based on a cost estimate. So this cost estimate really goes back to 6-2, 611, excuse me, 6-2, 11-4, 10 under E. So
Do you have that reference changed, Brian?
I think that reference needs to be changed, just
So what was that number again?
6-2, 11-4. Let me just double check myself.
Are you just saying that we can move it to that section?
No, I'm just saying that that reference is incorrect. Yeah, the reference that we have right there is incorrect.
Was that sub E?
Yes. That's correct.
E3,
Item, yeah, bullet number
3.
Again, getting down to financial security, under F on page 12, there's a, this goes back to what we talked about last time. We left most of that in there, Ted, I don't know if you have this highlighted or not. My concern was that before, that it didn't have parameters. we just need to make sure that we're tied into that, because this is a financial security aspect. Did you have anything on that?
No, I did not have anything highlighted on it.
Are you caught up, or do you have any other, between where we were and where we are now?
You know, page 12, F, financial security.
Yeah, that's where I was at. Making sure we're consistent. Are you caught up on that, Mark? Where we're at? On page 16, under item number 2, complaint resolution, item B, as in Bravo. Now to the very bottom of item B, just above C, in parentheses, the very last word is application, and I believe it should say ordinance. So again, it's under operations and maintenance, page 16, under complaint resolution, item B.
Yeah.
Very last word in B should be ordinance instead of set forth in the application. Do you have anything else, Chad?
No,
Mark?
that was a good catch on that application ordinance.
Okay. I think that catches us up on just those little minor nuances, formatting and some grammar.
We've made other changes in the structure that we need to review anything.
One of the ones I worry about is just changing that administrator, the applicant for who pays for the signs. That's kind of a substantive change, or could be viewed that way. It's close call.
Kind of a big deal, but kind of not, I guess. You're the expert. But for us, I think that's fairly,
If you can defend it by saying it was a Scrivener's error that we're fixing, then it's not a substantial change. Scrivener's errors, somebody used the wrong word when they should have used a different word, or it's misspellings or typos, those are all Scrivener errors. Those aren't substantive changes, but once you move beyond that, you're making substantive changes.
you have that in your notes, Chad, from the last conversation?
We did talk about that.
Okay, so I think that would probably fall on that, it just didn't get changed, we talked about it, but it didn't get changed.
During the work session.
During the work session. I didn't miss. I have it marked. Does that fall under your Scrivener?
I'll let you make that determination.
Okay. Well, if it's up to me.
I think I could defend it.
Okay, well, that's what's really important here. So the consensus was we did discuss it, and it didn't get changed, and we should have followed up a little closer, but we've got the one word to change there. So, anything else? Are you looking?
I'm just looking at that also.
Okay.
All right, we've gone over it. We have a motion and a second for the first reading of this ordinance.
Have we done the motion to approve these changes? The motion to approve these changes, yeah.
I thought that's the motion we were on.
That's what I
We're on
thought.
that.
That's what-
Okay, I just, said something about first reading, I wanna make sure that.
Yes, with the changes that we made.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would make a motion that we move forward and approve the format as it is, with the minor changes that we made rather
To make sure that we have the understanding that as a motion.
as a motion. Correct.
We have a second yet. Okay, any other discussion?
Chad, do you have any discussion?
No, I think what we talked about could very well be that Scribner error as described. We talked about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would just like to thank everybody for all of the time and effort that everybody's put into this. This has been an ongoing process now for several months, and it's been a collaborative.
Since several years.
Collusion of information and research that we've all worked on and put together, and so I really do appreciate the time and effort that everybody's put into it. I think as you look around us from county to county, there are a lot of other counties looking at what we're doing, and we've looked at a lot of what other counties have done to really form a more comprehensive ordinance here, and I think I'm pretty pleased and happy with all of the input and proud of the input that we've had from the community to be able to get us where we are today. So thank you all.
Okay. Chad, do you have anything to say?
No.
Only thing I will have to say during this whole process is, I'm not saying that I'm for or against alternative power. As a supervisor, my responsibility, or our responsibility, is to have the best interest in the whole county. In the work sessions, I have brought up many concerns that I have about this work in this document, and I said, I don't think it's looking to the future and definitely has some negative ramifications for the county. And I'll leave it at that at this time. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. It passes 2-1. We will have our next reading next week. Thank you all.
No, this was just the motion to approve the
The
changes.
changes, excuse me.
Right, now we
Now
will be
we'll
doing
have
the
it.
first.
Now we're on the first reading.
Okay, now we'll have the first reading. It's my mistake. I guess math is too long for this one.
Well, you need a motion.
Sorry about my confusion.
Just happy to get moving forward, right?
I've been saying that for a long time. So we have a motion to approve it as presented today.
With the changes that we made, yes, correct, or the
One
minor
second.
changes,
Yes,
different changes, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any other discussion first? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 2-1. Thank you.
Is it an aye?
I said aye as a negative.
Oh, okay.
Or you want to say nay?
But that's a double negative, negative positive.
However you want to do it. Going forward. Any supervisor subcommittee?
We have upcoming meetings for the Southeast Iowa Crime Commission, and the juvenile detention. Is there anything that
Thanks, John.
you would guys like me to bring to their attention at that meeting, or?
We talked about this whole opioid thing. Is there any application like that for opioids? Any coverage from that perspective, since we're dealing with juveniles, or whatever the case may be?
Since it's an incarceration type of thing, I don't know if anything down there could be utilized there or not.
Treatment, maybe,
The treatment aspect of it,
Education?
possibly.
education. I'll run that past them, let them carry that. Think about that, consider about that. Also, not on subcommittee, but same type thing. You got Lynn Conrad on the agenda. there was Lynn Conrad on the agenda he wanted to meet with the Board of Supervisors on the 19th for a brief update on the Oakville Mills Flag Stop Depot renovation project. He just wanted to give a heads up to everybody that, because there was a time period where there wasn't a lot of action being done on that, and that has really stepped up, and they've done some modifications to it, and he just wanted to bring an update to everybody. Second thing, kind of dealt with the exhaust brake usage and the horse or the truck noise issues on the highway and everything. I shared with the guys here earlier that did kind of another unofficial survey of.
Tell them what you did.
I will. I really ventured out and really did a hardship. I camped in my backyard. In a tent, sleeping bag, that type of thing. Just for the grins of it, basically, but I also wanted to listen to the exhaust brakes going. Because in my house insulates the noise quite a little bit. I live 0.23 miles off the highway. I just wanted to get an idea how many people were actually using the Jake brake or the exhaust brake. And so I was out there from about 11 p.m. to 5:30 and just enjoying the backyard, camp out type thing. But huge number of trucks using exhaust brakes, just huge number of them. I could hear at Hickory Grove when they were going down that hill, and I could hear the creek bridge. I live on 200th Street. So just to the north, about a mile is a creek bridge and a hill. South of me is the creek bridge and a hill. And it was right and left. Jake brake, Jake brake, Jake brake, just all the time. So, and I do know what a Jake brake noise is, and I'm familiar with that. So, somebody says you don't know what you're talking about, I'll argue that point with them all day long. So, yeah, for what it's worth, I didn't get a count number, but I know it wasn't a very restful night. So,
Wasn't a complete scientific.
no, no. And then the last thing, there have been talk about getting data from the state clerk's office about how many traffic-related violations would occur if, in relation to if the county adopted 321 code and wrote ordinances on 321, what that would look like. I checked with the local clerk upstairs. She referred me, she said she's not able to get all that data. I would have to make an application for information to the help desk for that, so that will be the next step. I asked how many traffic violations, what types of violations have been cited, and what the fine amounts would be. So, if the county would generate $14.38 on it, is it really worth doing, going through the effort? But I think that part of that, we need to know how involved that would be. The county sheriff's office could write a county ordinance. I'm pretty certain that the state patrol would stick with the state code, and the municipalities will probably stick with a state code or a city ordinance if they have that. So it would have, the sheriff's office potentially could utilize that code sections.
If you would like me to pull data from any certain time period on citations we've had in the past, I'd be happy to get that for you.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt if you're talking just what the sheriff's office could. Yeah, that wouldn't
Let
hurt.
me know what date ranges you would like, and I
Okay.
can get those for you.
You can give us a dollar value on all of those.
We should be able to, yes.
That's what we're going to look at as well, is to see what kind of dollars we're talking about. So I'm guessing it's probably more than $1 and probably less than $1 million, but if it's ours, and we should be able to
Because
take that money.
what was new, or Lee County?
Lee County was like 1.1 or 1.2 million.
Wow, that sounds like a lot.
They're bigger county,
Yeah.
more people.
And again, that's an estimate, right?
Right.
That was a projected estimate.
Yes.
You're right.
Did that include their cameras that they had up, or is that just citations issued by deputies?
Just citations, this is what they quoted me.
That seems awful.
It does, yeah. But, back to, the middle of '08, we can easily pull that data. It's in our computer software.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Help us move forward.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Couple of subcommittees, I had a Russ meeting this week, that's the regional utility systems, we really just talked about finances for the most part. We did get an update, I don't know how many people are aware of this, Rich is aware of this, I'm sure. There's a facility south of Mount Pleasant that was using a pond as a dumping facility for carcasses. I won't get into all the details, you can look it up, but apparently the DNR is involved, and our folks with EPA here through public health are involved as well. And there's some significant fines and dollars attached to that. I think that it's been in the paper and on the radio a couple of times. But our EPA group, through Bruce Hudson, is involved in that and helping to get that mess cleaned up. So that was just one of the 2 or 3 subjects, but again, most of what we talked about with Russ was financially oriented and where we're at. The other thing I had was, many of you know I went on a trip to Washington DC last week with a group of folks, that's what's up on the screen right here. There was about 20 of us roughly total, as we looked at the group, and it was a really good group. Rachel Lindeen helped pull that together with Amy O'Brien from Burlington. They did a really good job. A lot of times, a lot of these things are in flux because all these senators and all these congressmen they have to be available to take a vote. I don't know if you've ever been in one of those buildings when it's time to vote, but it's like if you're outside at recess, an alarm goes off, and that means you have like 7 minutes to get into chambers to vote. So it was pretty interesting. And it went off when we were talking to Randy Feenstra, so he gave us like 2 minutes for a photo opportunity and move on. But I don't know how many of you have been to any of those types of meetings, but again, it was really interesting. We actually went to the various buildings and talked to groups of individuals and really focused on the 4 areas that you see up there. The Department of Defense was there. Jeremiah Jorgensen from the Army Ammunition Plant spoke, and he was really talking about the infrastructure and the $2 billion allocated to update that facility at Middletown. He talked about what they needed from an infrastructure update, and one of the things he really focused on was high volume, high pressure natural gas, and that's what they really need, and it's kind of a byproduct as well, and it's also a raw energy source for them, as well as being able to utilize that in the manufacturing process. And then Mike Norris talked again about the need for natural gas in southeast Iowa, and we looked at some maps and talked about some opportunities there. Healthcare was a big issue. Dr. McCoy from Great River Health was there to really focus on that, had the details. And then John Billups from Burlington talked about infrastructure and what's happening in the southeastern Iowa corridor for us. And most of that's all functioned and facilitated through Southeast Iowa Regional. So they had a pretty good grip on what we were talking about, and they were pretty well versed. Those folks put together a really nice book that could give us a good format of what we wanted to see, and also to update folks as we came to them, so they were at least in tune with what we wanted to talk about. So we spent 2 full days going back and forth, and made our way around town. Fortunately, some of those folks were a little more in tune to how to get around than I was, so that helped significantly.
How many steps did you have? You said that one day you had
25,000 steps one day. My feet were a little sore.
And some of the others took scooters, I understood?
A couple of them took a scooter, which I think is crazy, because those things go about 20 miles an hour right down the sidewalk. So, I'm surprised they didn't wipe out. So scooters, electric scooters, obviously, e-bikes, they're kind of big all around the city. Lots of people do it. And Rachel was one of those crazy people that did it. But it's a quick way to get around. And you know, the worst part of that is when you're done with it, you just get off and leave. And so people don't really take care of that situation for a little bit. Again, we had a really good conversation. I thought the one that was most interesting for me was with the Department of Energy. And when you go into all these buildings, this is a lot more secure than even going through the airport. So we were pretty well searched and identified as we went through with badges, and we had to have a host. Every building we went to, we had to have a host to get us to where we wanted to go. The Department of Energy, like I said, I thought was the most impressive. It was the last one as well, but we already specifically talked about infrastructure and really focused on the need for high volume natural gas again, because that ties into the Iowa Army Ammunition Plant, obviously, but also it's a raw material because it has nitrogen, ammonia, and some other aspects to it that they utilize for a raw source. There are some pretty unique things that happen down there. And so it was really interesting to get their perspective. We talked a lot about what we could do with those folks, and then as the conversation progressed, they talked about some potential NSA needs. And so once you get the National Security Agency involved, it seems like things move pretty quickly, or at least you get their attention really fast. So that was really interesting. So all good conversation. I think always good to be able to get in front of the people that make a difference, and always good to network within our group of legislators. So every one of our legislators is in tune to the needs that we're looking for. Obviously, Randy Feenstra is in Northwest Iowa and doesn't have a lot to do with Southeast Iowa, but he's running for governor, as most of you probably know. So he was really attentive and really wanted to hear what we had to say and listen. So it was really interesting. The other thing that I wanted to touch on today was, and Mark and Chad and I have had an update on this. We have had a concern about nepotism in the county attorney's office. We want to provide some transparency here so that you're all aware of what's been happening. So it hasn't gone on a blind eye, and it hasn't just been pushed off to the side. Our HR folks have looked into it, and HR has found that there's no nepotism within the office according to Iowa code and statute. So from that perspective, we're gonna move forward without there being nepotism in the office. And Mark has got a little more experience here, so anything you wanna address there, Mark?
No, totally fine.
Okay.
Paul did a good job of looking into it for us.
Yeah, pretty detailed. Chad, anything?
Back to the natural gas pipeline, did they say where the source would be for a pipeline moving into the area?
Yeah, so all of our natural gas is sourced either from Indiana or from Kansas. So that's really the holdup here, is how do you get the infrastructure to compress more gas and more volume into the existing lines? So it really has to happen where that begins in Kansas. So that's part of the problem and part of our situation. We have existing pipelines that can, and I think I had a map up here a while back, and I can dig that out if you like, but the existing pipelines will carry more volume, but it's limited. We can maybe double what we have today, but if we look at the southeastern Iowa corridor, when you get back to Lee County, is a really good example. You go down to Roquette, and then from there you get to Weaver and some of those other areas. They can't really expand because they don't have the volume today. And apparently Lee County has had at least 3 businesses with $1.5 billion potential investment. You know, they need the natural gas in order to build the facilities, but A&R, who owns the pipeline, the major pipeline, isn't willing to expand until there's a commitment. So it's a catch-22. You can't expand if you don't have the commitment, but you can't make the commitment if you don't have the energy. So that's what we're asking help for from our legislators, is to make sure that we have the ability to do a better job of compressing that in Kansas so we can get more volume here. And then because those pipelines already have an easement, we'd be using the existing pipelines, and if they had to build a new pipeline, it's gonna take some time and some dollars, but there's enough easement available to be able to put another pipeline in to
Parallel to.
yeah, run parallel to it, but to build on the volume that we have today. So it's not gonna replace it, it's just gonna increase our potential. And then it's a matter of working with Mid-American and a couple of smaller companies that own from A&R South to get the volume that we need through them as well. In my understanding, the governor has been working with Mid-American, so there's some potential for them to get some financing to help that move along as well. So we're making progress. It's really slow progress, but we are making some progress along the lines of getting more natural gas into Southeast Iowa.
You know, that through the workforce development, probably a year or year and a half ago, the electricians union said that there was gonna be a call for 95-ish master electricians to be working on that project at one time. And it was proving difficult to find enough people
Skilled, yeah.
to fill that need, let alone apprentices and people working with them, so.
Yeah, so
Kinda
again,
interesting.
the Department of Defense has allocated a little over $2 billion for modernization down there, but that does not include the natural gas. The natural gas would be in addition to that.
So the trades are important fields of work. So.
Yeah, and they're working really closely with Southeast community college to work on the trade aspect to make sure that we get enough skilled workers, and that's always a challenge, especially in Southeast Iowa. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Mine's not near impressive. Had my last mental health meeting and it was basically a funeral. We couldn't even get a quorum,
Wow,
so that was it.
that was it.
That was it.
That's a quiet group.
That was it. Time for public comments. Any public?
This is a comment. I know that you have to follow the statutes, but I just want to say that the Iowa code is not in sync with the best management practices of the public and private sector concerning married couple, concerning relationships within offices.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Ron?
Yeah, I know we talked about it earlier, and Chad, you come over and said something about board of adjustment, and supervisors had final say. And I get in trouble a lot on this because I keep looking stuff up on the internet. And I find one spot here that says, in Henry County, Iowa. Henry County is different than Muscatine or Clinton, Story County. But in Henry County, Iowa, the Board of Adjustment has specific powers that can override the Board of Supervisors' decisions in certain zoning-related matters. That bothers me. The Board of Adjustment can hear and decide appeals relating to zoning, and they can also grant variances or special exceptions to the zoning ordinances. The Board of Supervisors, while responsible for setting county policies and overseeing departments, does not have the final say on the Board of Adjustment. That bothers me a little bit. I think we need to protect that a little bit. I know you say you're under the understanding that you have the final say, but yet this article right here says different. So it's a little concerning to me.
There's also a section in the Henry County ordinances
Okay, are you done,
with the
Bob?
powers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Who else? Anybody else?
There is a section in the Henry County ordinances that specify what the Board of Adjustment's roles are, and there's actually 5 factors. They have to meet them all. So it's like A through E. Is that what you pulled up? Okay. So that's very helpful in understanding that too. But
Okay.
so that's what I looked at when trying to evaluate whether that was something that we needed to see about changing.
And I also saw where the Board of Adjustment was supposed to be made up of 5 individuals
Correct.
throughout the county that had properties, and there were not supposed to be any realtors. There's been realtors on your Board of Adjustments for several years. But then again, Henry County is different.
Yeah. So to finish out my public comment, I would like to say thank you for getting this ordinance for the alternative energy to this point. I appreciate also that you will enact a moratorium on solar and battery before you end the moratorium on wind projects being applied for in the county. And I just appreciate that our county is at the forefront of this conversation throughout the state as I talk with people all over the state about this. And so I appreciate that you're standing up for the rights of everyone, not just people that are interested in these projects, but also non-participating landowners and citizens of our county. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
May I make one more comment?
Yes, please.
Did someone else have a comment?
No, yes, you can, 'cause you didn't even.
Oh, okay. I noticed that Jefferson County requested that Washington County take over a case because Jefferson County attorney had a conflict of interest, and I was wondering why Henry County attorney couldn't do the same thing. That's just a comment.
Thank you.
I have one more comment on,
What's your first one?
or my first comment, yeah. I just think that we need to remember that I understand that our county attorney is an elected official, but I also want to remind people that nobody ran against him.
Yes, exactly.
And so when we have issues with our sheriff's department, and it's very clear that there are issues, then I'm glad that the vote went so they could have outside counsel, because it needed to be that way.
Yes, amen,
Thank you.
amen, amen.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all those in favor of, a motion to adjourn, make a motion.
Make that motion.
Second.
Second, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Please, good.